Hey everyone, really excited to jump in today's training. We're going to go cover is how you can go from zero to your first cold email campaign. I'm the presenter. My name is Connor Kaplan. I have background in cold emails, and I'm looking forward to walking you through getting your first campaign up and running. So, to give a bit of context on my background, I used to run a painting company. So, I wasn't always running cold emails, getting clients, getting partners. My main marketing channel back in the day was knocking on doors in negative 25-degree weather in Ottawa, Canada. So if the A slips up once in a while, please don't hold it against me. The other way that I was able to drive leads was to show up home shows where thousands of people would walk through a convention center and I would have to almost desperately beg them to get their phone and their number and give them a call, set up a quote. However, it worked. However, it was exhausting. By the time the summer came around, I was beat. But that's exactly when I needed to have the most amount of energy to launch my cruise when I was running a painting company because we were only able to paint in the summer. But what happened in 2020 is that everything changed. So I don't know if you heard about the thing called COVID, but it pretty much made me dissolve the painting company because we couldn't go into homes anymore. I then joined a tech company, and then that's where I initially learned about cold email. I watched a company scale 5 times its size in only a period of 18 months. And then I realized, hey, this is serious leverage. And that's something that I wanted to learn more about and master. So to me, cold email was similar to digital door knocking. However, I didn't have to knock on doors. I didn't have to buy expensive ads. I didn't have to chase leads in person, begging them for their phone number, their name. Instead, what I did with a nice coffee is I sat at home, I would build my campaigns, and then I would book meetings with these 10 million, $50 million, and even Fortune 1000 companies. So why this course exists is because I've sent millions of cold emails myself and for clients. And you're going to be able to get the real insights of what works. And by the end of it, you're going to be able to have the tools, the frameworks, and the confidence to launch your first campaign. So, for context, this whole marketing world could be complicated. However, there are four main buckets where you could get leads from. There's paid ads, similar to Facebook and Instagram ads. There's content where you don't really have to do dances on Instagram or TikTok. This is building a brand, but it's really slow. You could get referrals from partnerships, and these are very high leverage, but you also have to have incredible credibility in your market. Lastly, there's outbound, where you could do cold email, you could do LinkedIn, you could do cold calls. It's direct, scalable, and it's very cost effective if you do it right. So that's exactly what we're going to go cover today. We're talking about cold email. It's a pillar in the outbound marketing channel. And in terms of what you could expect with this channel is it won't succeed overnight. It takes patience. It takes a lot of failures to learn from. And then ultimately, once you master everything, it becomes predictable and it becomes a numbers game. So think about it like this. You're building a machine and there's three main components of it. First, with cold emails, you have to identify who do you want to send a message to? How are you actually going to be sending these emails? Are you sending everything from one email address? What's your main infrastructure? And then finally, you have to have the words that land in the prospect's email inbox. So once you have the overall strategy, what happens now is you start to begin building your campaign. So you're scraping the leads, you're validating them to make sure that whenever you send an email, none of the emails bounce. And then finally, you're going to go enrich your emails with any relevant variables that you'll be using. Don't worry if you haven't heard of the word variables before, we're going to be covering it in just a few. In terms of what to expect with cold email, it's not something where you set up day one and then you're automatically going to get results the very next day. You have to have a setup. It takes a bit of patience. However, when it's done right, it's very predictable. It becomes a numbers machine and almost like a math game where the amount of emails you send directly relates to how many opportunities you have in your company. And then based on how many opportunities you have in your company, you have a math formula to say, hey, I'm going to get this many partners. I'm going to raise this much capital, or hey, I'm going to close this amount of clients. So it's a machine that you're building. And there's three parts to this machine. Step one is that you have to figure out your strategy. Step two is you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get the building blocks to leverage inside of this campaign? Step three is you launch it and then you manage your opportunities. So I want to keep it real with you before we jump into the remainder of the content. If this is something where you want to try, get results tomorrow, and you're not really committed to making this work over the next few weeks, I would say skip the videos, save your time. However, if you do want to make it work, listen up. We're going to cover a lot of nuggets here that took me hours, days, weeks to figure out. And you're going to be able to cover it in the next hour. So Want to keep it real for you. Most people won't respond to your emails. If you send 100, even if I'm sending 100 emails to my own family, I wouldn't even expect more than 30% of them to message me back. And these are people that know me, love me, trust me. However, if you're also looking for your first campaign to work, chances are it won't, because it takes repetitions to understand what wording makes sense, who are the best people to go after, how should I reply to the emails whenever someone shows interest. These are things that take time to learn. Also, if your campaign is not working, it's either going to be the infrastructure, your overall offer, or the actual wording, the copy that you're sending to your list. Then lastly, if you're not getting a lot of opportunities, you may just simply not be sending enough. So if that makes sense to you, cold email can be one of the most cost-effective channels that you could learn and leverage inside of your company today. So I want to keep it real with you. Most people won't respond to your emails. Next, your first campaign probably won't work because it takes repetitions to become effective in this channel. You have to learn who are the best people to reach out to, what's the best offer for them to say yes to, what wording will you be using, and then once someone shows interest, how are you going to be converting that into an opportunity? Now, let's just say that you figured out all of that. If your campaign is still not working, it's most likely either your infrastructure, your offer, or your copy. Next, even if you tweak your infrastructure, your offer, and your copy, the last thing that you may not be doing is sending enough volume. So if that sounds good to you and you're ready to move forward with the remainder of these videos, I want to get you excited. Cold email can be one of the most cost-effective channels. But before we go to the next few modules, I want to have a quick check-in with you. So we covered 4 main marketing channels business could use to drive growth. What do you think they are? So if you thought about it, it's content, it's paid ads, it's outbound, and then finally it's partnerships. And today we're covering outbound. Now, in terms of what's next, if we have the best strategy, but we don't land our emails inside of the inbox, nothing matters. So that's why we're going to go cover deliverability and infrastructure in the next video. I'll see you there. Bye.